was dying, but I was trying to be strong. And for some reason, I felt like sending strong messages would make me strong. I don't know if that. So if you know anybody that has gone through or is going through an IVF process, hug them and tell them it is well with you. Pray for them, wish them well, love on them. They are going through a whole lot. I know you might be asking them, why were you repeating the test? Well, I don't know. God works in mysterious ways. I was just too hot to accept that the babies were gone. Hello beautiful people, how you all doing? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're continuing our series, the journey to motherhood. So where did I stop last time? So okay, so for sake of this video, so it's clear to everyone, also we understand the things I'll be saying. We our family hospital is Labaja Hospital, right? And in Lavaja Hospital, we're saying that was like our family hospital. So when we decided to, go and see a doctor for fertility and all of that, we're seeing Dr. A. That's a gynae A. That's doctor we're seeing. Now gynae A has a colleague called gynae B. Yeah, and gynae B works for Lavaja Hospital. However, gynae B owns IVF Hospital. Does it make sense? So for sake of this video, we have Labaja Hospital, we have IVF Hospital, we have gynae A and gynae B. So gynae A now directed us to, like, when we had come in I think this time it was 2021, late 2021. Gynae A now directed us to like gynae B to say, oh, he has his colleague. Yeah, he has like an IVF clinic where you can go and see him, like get his opinion and all of that. So why not? We went to see gynae B in his hospital. We booked an appointment and went in. The one we saw gynae B, our first visit was like a consultation. He just asked us some questions, how long we've been trying, age, and all of that. Because I don't know if I mentioned in my first video, but something that's very important when it comes to fertility and decisions around fertility, plus advice that doctors give you. Your age plays a huge role, especially for the females, right? So when we talked, he said after our first consultation, he asked us to go do some tests. So we did a test, but we didn't do the test in his hospital because the hospital doesn't really have all of the facilities, like all of the equipment. And this lab around Magdada, I can't remember the name now. That was where we did. Like we did, I did HSG. Like there are a couple of tests, blood counts, this one, scans, different kinds of scans. My husband also did some tests and all of that. And then when we finished, let me know if you just even brushed through it. I pray, hopefully, that none of you get to experience the kind of things that I did experience, to be honest, because these tests are very painful. Like if you, I hope nobody does ask, but if you guys want me to go into details of like how this test, just let me know. But yeah, we did, like, I did the HSD. In the first part of all of this, I feel like the most physical pain I felt was with HSD. Like, it's a very intrusive test. So we did all of the tests, and then when the results came out, we took it to the doctor, right? So the doctor we now booked our second consultation with the doctor. Break in transmission. If you hear my employer in the background, just forgive us. This is her wake window. I couldn't get this video done when she was sleeping. Long story. But we then went to the doctor, second consultation, right? He reviewed the results, checked, did everything, and then was talking to us about it, that everything looks good. The only thing that he sees here is a fibroid, but that he's not bothered about the fibroid. He wouldn't do anything. It doesn't stop anything. He said okay, because me, I'm still believing like, oh well, if the doctor says like it's his field, he's a professional in that field. Just like coming to me to ask me things about finance, business analysis. I am a pro in my field. I'm an expert in my field. So when I talk to you, like, I know what I'm saying. So he was talking to us like he knew what he was saying, right? So we didn't have any reason to doubt or to, we just moved with it. Then he now said, but since it's not happening, he would advise IVF. My facial expression alone was like, can't we explain that roughly? I ain't doing that shit. I ain't doing that. But so he was like, anyway, that if we don't want to, then we can just, try for another 6 months and then come back. And then he kept making emphasis on age, that because of age, he would advise that you do this, we do that. We said, okay, no, voila. So we left. Like I said, if there's anybody that this thing would have given headache, is me. My husband did not have that kind of time, or he does not have that kind of time. So we then, left, and we're just living our lives, thinking about it a bit, yeah, but it wasn't at the forefront of what we're doing. Like, it didn't affect the decisions that we were making at that time, right? So we just kept on doing that. So after about 6 months, we went back to the doctor to see, like, to talk to him, because the last time we saw him, he booked an appointment for us for like 6 months time, which fell around May, I think. So we then went to see him. So when we now went to May, he was like, that since it hasn't happened, that we just do IVF. Now this was May 2022, I mean. One was like, okay, we can try the IVF. But because it was 6 months, because it was, what am I saying? Because we went back after 6 months, some of the tests that we had done had to be redone. Does that make sense? Quote and unquote, Dr. B, who is the owner of IVF Hospital, right? We're still on track. Said that we had to redo some of the tests that we did, that some of them after 6 months you have to do them, especially because of age. Like, this guy showing age factor at us, that once you're above 30, this, okay. So we then went ahead to do some of the tests and then came back. So when we now came back to, give him the results, and this now was our third consultation, we then paid for the IVF, right? So that was how the IVF process now started. So when we paid for the IVF, we then then they now took some other details about me, like cycle details and all of that, because the way the IVF works is they track your cycle as a lady, and then you start the IVF treatment on the first or the second day, depends on the plan that you are on or what your doctor is doing for you. For me, I started on the second day of my cycle, something like that. No, on the second day, right? Not something like that, on the second day. So we then went in, did the test, came back, then we had a plan for my next cycle. So that was when we started. But before we started, we had discussed the option. So for the IVF process, 2 options: either go into the hospital for your hospital to be giving you your medication, or you self-medicate, like you self-inject. So what literally happens with the IVF process is that they try to stimulate your body to produce plenty eggs, right? And then they try to stimulate your body to produce plenty eggs. They harvest the eggs. Whoosh! The term harvest makes it sound like something evil, but yeah, they harvest it and then get the sperm from your partner and then fertilize it and then put it back in your body. You carry it. That's like the summary of what an IVF. My next cycle started. I informed the hospital, and then they asked us to come in the next day to get my batch of medications. I was going to say drugs. My husband said stop using drugs. Medication. So they told me how to self-inject and all of that. I have a couple of videos. I will try to insert 1 or 2 of them, like me self-injecting into this. So we now started the IVF process. And mind you, when you're taking that injection and all of that, they will tell you, like, it depends on what you want. You can take it at 6 a.m. every day, but it's advisable that you maintain the time. So I think then I was working on the island. We had to leave the house before 6 every day. So I think my timing was 5 a.m. I think 5 a.m.-ish or 5:30, one of them. So that's what I was doing. After 10 days, I think they will give you different dates to come in. I think I first went in after 5 days. I went in for a test. They said, my body was reacting well to it. I think the 10th day again, we went in, my body was reacting. Very beautiful to it. I took my injection for 40, and then we went into the doctor. They said, my body was doing great and all of that. Then we scheduled a time for egg harvesting. In fact, I don't want to use the term harvesting, egg collection. So and for that egg collection, that's the thing. The IVF process is a very stressful process. I'm saying this now, and I'm just flying over it. If you know anybody in your life, your friend, your sister, your brother, your enemy that's going through an IVF process, first, it is very time consuming. Financially, it is heavy in the pocket. Emotionally, it is a lot. Physically, it is draining. So if you know anybody that has gone through or is going through an IVF process, hug them and tell them it is well with you. Pray for them, wish them well, love on them. They are going through a whole lot. Like, I think I would try to find IVF warriors, right? Oof, that sounds again like it's a big. I'll try to find people that have done IVF and see if we can talk about, like, maybe each person just talks about one part of it that was hell for them, because the entire process is a lot. I digress. Let's go back to the video. So after the stimulation and everything, they said my body was doing well, and then it was time to now do egg collection. I tell you, the best way to describe egg collection is using like a stick or something to pull down mango or pull down pawpaw from a pawpaw tree. That was just the feeling of it, because I remember waking up mad pain. Then when they did the egg collection, they were able to get about 15, is it either 15 or 6? No, they were able to get 16 eggs, right? Now, out of the 16 eggs, they claim that 3 eggs were viable, because they collect 16 eggs. I think they culture it for like 28 to 48 hours, I think, and they let you know the viable eggs. So I think when they did the fertilization and everything, we had 3 viable eggs, like 3 that fertilized and they are okay to proceed to the next step. Now, again, disclaimer, I'm not a medical student, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, I have nothing to do with the medical field except being a recipient of treatments, and some of this happened in 2022. I'm not familiar with some of the terms. I have consciously erased my mind of some of the things that happened, because it was a traumatic experience for me. So if the terms I'm using are not correct, please, medical student, just correct me, teach me. Don't call me and tell me what are you saying. Just teach me. So they now called us to let us know that 3 eggs that fertilized and they were very viable. Then we set a time for transplant. That's not transplant. We now set a time for insemination. See, is that the word? I think for them to put the egg back in my body now, so I can carry the egg and stuff. So we now went in. So when we went in on that day. Now, before they put it there, I was asked to come into the hospital at a particular time for one injection. I think that injection, I can't remember what it's called now, but the injection is quote unquote supposed to get my body ready to receive the egg, and then it was also making my uterine wall thick enough to carry. I can't remember the name now. If I do remember, I'll say it as the video goes. I can't remember it. So I remember that one of our family friends had given birth. We went to see them in the hospital, and then we had to head to IVF hospital on the island by 11:30, because my time for the injection was 12:05. Like, it had to be at a particular time. So we then headed out to the island. Good thing for us, it was midnight, so traffic was less, and we got there right in time. We got there like 10 minutes before the time. We waited at exactly that time. They gave me the injection, and then we headed back home. Then the next day, I think it was the next day. Not the next day or 2 days later, we went in for the egg placement. So we went in. Then the doctor said he was going to, put in the 3 eggs. I was a bit skeptical. I'm like, the one I know is mostly 2, or what I hear is mostly 2 eggs, right? But they said they were going to put in 2 because it didn't make sense for them to put 2 and then save 1. Because mostly the IVF process they put in as much eggs as possible, because it's usually a game of chance. For me, I'd like to say, as well as a game of chance, it's a game of grace, because no matter what happens, no matter the medicine that you do, the technology and everything, it still takes God to make anything possible. So they put in the 3, and then I rested for a bit. They said don't do anything for 48 to 48 to 72 hours. So I was on bed rest. I didn't do much. I was just staying at home, chilling and relaxing. Then we had an appointment for. Then they gave me this. There was this drug I was also inserting to also help the uterine lining again. Then we had an appointment for 14 days after the was placed back into my body. So that was when we were going to test to test whether it was positive or negative, whatever it is. Now, before I move forward, I also like to, acknowledge my friend. I would also like to shout out to my friend. She didn't know, like she's my friend, but she didn't know what I was dealing with, quote unquote. So she reached out to me like, "Hey, babes, like we're friends. I'm not going to just sit down and act like nothing is happening. Just in case you didn't know about the whole IVF process and everything." And I'm like, it's funny how God works, because now that you're calling me, I'm just in the hospital where we're doing XYZ. So she was following up with me, praying with me, and all. We then went to the hospital on the 14th day for the test, all scared and everything, because I didn't want to do a test at home. I didn't want to jinx anything, right? We then went and we did the test, and it was successful. Ah, God. You don't want to know how I screamed. But in fact, if I'm being honest, I didn't scream like shout. I screamed into tongues. Like I just started praying. I'm like, oh God, I was so happy. I called my best friend. Like as I was leaving the doctor's office, I called my best friend, and she was like, she knew. Like I also had a friend in the hospital that came. Like she came to wait with us and my husband. She was so happy. Like it was a very joyous day for us. So we moved on, and then I think I came in after 1 week or 2 weeks. They checked 3 of the eggs, like the 3 eggs had actually attached. They were growing and all. Now this was around June. Yeah, this was late June, May, June, July. This was late June, early July, right? Yeah, it was late June, early July. So everything was going on well until it wasn't. Because I started noticing some things. I was spotting. I was like, some things were just happening. And again, don't forget, we were still on the mainland. The hospital was on the island. So for every time there was any little trigger, we had to, get into the car and start going to the island. So we're doing this. At a point, they even gave me they were giving me injections. Then I go to the doctor to complain about maybe I'm spotting or something. So give me injections on my legs, like on my thighs. We went on, it continued for a bit, like we went on like that until first they said one of the fetus, one of the babies. But at this point, the 3 eggs implanted, so 3 plates. Until we had one episode, we went in, they said, oh, one of the fetus had collapsed, it's like a ball, for lack of a better description, that one had shrunk. So I'm like, oh, okay, 1 down, 2 to go. I remember calling my mom to tell her, and she said that of course now I won't want to go, that this is my tiny waist, I want to use and carry 3 plates. Like it was like we laughed over it, and then we moved on. And then after about a week or so, I had another episode. We had to go to the hospital. This time, I think they kept me in the hospital. So I couldn't do anything. I just had to stay put. They gave me the injection again. We stayed. After about 2 days, we went back home. That day we went home, I had another episode, and then we started going to the hospital. Now, this was around one of our anniversaries. Tell me why we now went to the hospital that day. Dr. B wasn't around. However, he was not the person on call that night, and that doctor was on call. Now, this is in the IVF hospital. We already know that at this point, I no longer had a business with Labaja Hospital except for normal things. But for this facility, it was not IVF hospital. So that was how we were there. And then there was an admission. They had done some scans. They said, oh, that a second one was collapsing, but it hasn't fully collapsed. This one, that one. They now called Dr. B to start coming to the hospital. That night was very dramatic. So I was lying down. Next thing, it was like midnight. In fact, it was the date of our anniversary. Go. I was feeling pressed, and I told my husband to help me to the hospital, to the toilet, let me pee. And I went into class. I just sat down to pee. Like I legit felt them. I'm not even joking. I legit felt them drop. Like the moment it happened, I screamed like this. My husband, before my husband even as he was standing up, he was pressing the bell. Now came to carry me up. And I turned, like I looked, I'm like, oh my god, like it was. Then we stayed, the nurse came, cleaned me up and everything, and then said that I shouldn't worry. They've already called Dr. B. He was supposed to have been here, but I can't even remember what the excuse was. Sure, at about 3 a.m., Dr. B came in. He did a scan. He didn't want to send. They did scan in the room. They brought one machine, scan in the room. I could read their facial expression. They didn't want to send it, but I could read the facial expression. Me, I just left them, right? And I said we should go down to his office to use another machine. Someone went there. And I saying, oh, this one, that one. I'm like, the three of them collapsed. In fact, at this point, I've miscarried. Let's not be speaking English. This was 7. We were 7 weeks going on 8. And I said yes. Like I didn't even know what to think. I didn't know how to feel. I honestly, I genuinely didn't know how to feel. I can't lie. So we then waited for a bit. The next day, I think I was in the hospital. This thing happened on a Sunday. I was in the hospital that day. No, it happened Saturday night / Sunday morning. So on the Sunday, I'm like, they should discharge my one. I didn't want to stay around the environment. I wasn't just feeling it. So when the doctor came in again in the morning, about 8 or 9, he saw us, did everything, gave us some drugs to help clean my system and we're ready to leave. So we're not leaving the hospital. Now don't forget that, like I said, IVF was about 2 months. We're now leaving. Can somebody tell me why the receptionist hospitals, medical line, blah blah blah, hand in hand, pari pursue with empathy. Like you cannot be a doctor and not be empathetic. You can't be a nurse and not be empathetic. You can't be working in a hospital and not be empathetic, right? Tell me why when we're leaving the hospital, we're going down. Like I was in literal tears. I was coming down from the stairs. My husband was holding me. I was crying. I was just. The reception man said, "Oh, sorry, excuse me, ma." I turned. Like this was Sunday morning. My grace is that there was nobody in the reception that at the time we were leaving, or maybe there was 1 or 2. Like I really didn't care. When we were leaving, tell me why the receptionist. And I said, "Oh, sorry, excuse me, ma." When I turned, guess what she said? You have a bill of 100,000 for staying. Like you know how when they keep you in the hospital, when they admit you in the hospital, admission fee of 100,000 from Saturday night till the Sunday morning. People that know me already know what happened when she said that. Like I was so mad. At first I looked at her for like 5-10 seconds. I couldn't say anything. And then the next thing that came out of my mouth was, "Are you using it?" Sure, my husband is a very peaceful man. Just like, well, let's just go. That's how we do. Then we now started like I feel like I went through the 5 stages of grief. I'm not even lying. Went through all of that. I reacted badly to the drugs that was supposedly I was supposed to use to like clear my system and all of that. It was giving me a very bad migraine. Like I've never seen a migraine that bad, and it was so severe that it was so bad because every hospital we went to, because I now went back to my original hospital, which is Labadia Hospital. They knew what had happened because I explained to my doctor and everything. The drug they gave me was still that same drug I was running away from. I talked to one of my friends. She asked me to go see one other guy in there. This old doctor, like she's like an old hand. When I went to see him, story for another day, right? But he said, first of all, why did you have to do IVF? I'll come to that one. Maybe that will be part 3 of this series. Then he prescribed drug for me and gave me that same drug. So I just knew I couldn't run away from it. So for like 2 to 4 weeks, for like 2 weeks to 4 weeks, I had to deal with that intense migraine. Now, should I now shock you and tell you what even made me more sad or what was even more hurtful or painful was, at this time I already had P strips at home, like peace strips, yeah. After like 2 weeks, I tested. I was still showing bright red positive to pregnancy. It kept on showing for like, if I'm not exaggerating, maybe after like 2 months. And why I was so upset is, guy, I'm dealing with a loss. I'm dealing with this intense migraine from this drug that's trying to clear my system. And then the emotional torture of having to do this test and then it's showing positive. I know you might be asking, then why were you repeating the test? Well, I don't know. God works in mysterious ways. I was just too hot to accept that the babies were gone, right? Starting to get emotional. But no, we're good over here. So that was it. I remember calling my mom to tell her, and she was like, no, I remember telling my sister to tell my mom. I couldn't bring myself to telling her. And my sister was like, oh, I shouldn't worry, try to tell me, like talk to me and all of that. Then my mom eventually sent me a message so that she knows, and that she's praying for me. When I wanted to talk, she was available and stuff. I told my bestie that day. I think it was that day I told her. Like I didn't even, to be honest, when I told my family, I didn't call like my sister to tell her or my bestie to tell her or my friend to tell her. No, I actually sent them a text. I'm like, yeah, I sent them messages to say it had happened and they shouldn't feel bad. It was like dying, but I was trying to be strong. And for some reason, I felt like sending strong messages would make me strong. I don't know if that makes sense. So oh God, my friends and family loved up. Like, I'm not even joking. I'm not sure I said thank you to them enough for their care, their support throughout this entire episode. So we dealt with that and then that passed. And me, I'm like, you know what? We move on to the next, like nothing's point. I was a little bit distant in being myself. And we just brushed up and that was it. So that's the IVF episode. We then moved on and all. But before I round up, I'd like to mention something something I think that's important. After the second test, we found that I had fibroids, right? But when Dr. B reviewed the results, I also mentioned the fibroid thing to him and he said, oh no, that where it wasn't going to affect anything. And I remember that during the process, when I went in for one of the tests to see how my body was responding, there was the lady that does the scan. I don't know her role. I don't know what they are called in medical, like her medical term. But when she was doing it, she asked my nurse, because the hospital I used, they were assigning a nurse to do. She asked my nurse that, does Dr. B know about this fibroid and where it's located? My nurse said yes, and she said that, oh, Dr. B said it wasn't a problem. So I now asked her, I'm like, is this a problem? Like, what do you think? And I should have seen the signs. She was like, that if Dr. B said it's okay. I should have seen the signs. But guess what? I'd already paid and it was non-refundable. So what were we going to do? You get it? So that's it. That's how that whole episode now went by. Then we lost the babies and then I mourned the babies. I'm not sure I ever truly forgave up until early last year. If I'm being honest, I'm not sure I ever truly forgave Dr. B. Like, sometimes I'll just think about Dr. B and I'll be in so much pain and anguish like this. But we thank God for Jesus because he died for us. So we are loved because we have God. That's how I just moved past, and that's it. So yeah, that's the end of today's video. Let me just, like, now that I've talked about it, yes, like I don't feel hurt or pain or anything. It felt like I just relieved the moment again. And in the next video, I'll talk to you about how we did IUI and what followed after. The series is long, but yeah, thank you for listening to me up until this point. If any part touched you or got to you, please let me know in the comment section. Please like, please share, please subscribe, please comment, share this video. If you know anyone that is TTCing and all of that, please share this video with them. Let's hear their opinion, let's hear what they're going through. If you need to talk to me about things that are a little bit personal, you can just shoot me a DM or something, maybe email address or something, just stuff like that. But yeah, we've come to the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed this gist. I'll see you in the next one. I love you, and I want you to know that Jesus loves you even more. Mwah.